Hello, Photoshop Senior Edition, folks. We have an image here that was taken over at Garden of the Gods back in the late 1990s, and taken with a Minolta. And you notice the rocks on the inside are definitely very, very dark. You know, there's going to be people that say, yes, this frames this out nicely. We've got these colors, blah blah blah, and but there is some detail in all of this that is somewhat lost. So we're going to see if we can't bring some of that back. And obviously, this falls off very, very quickly going back through there. Now, there's not a lot of beauty right here in this foreground. We've got this deadish looking tree here and all that. But the purpose of this exercise is more trying to get things in focus again. Like I say, it is an old photograph, and it's actually off of film. And we want to also bring back the shadows if we can. So let's see, first of all, about sharpening things up a bit. I'll tell you what, let's see if we can't bring the colors back a little bit first, because they're a little bit drab. So without going into the perfect color correction stuff, looking for the white point, black point, middle of gray, which is ideal. Let's do a auto color correction through levels. So let's do Control L to bring up levels, and let's just make sure that through options that it is actually looking for the dark and light colors, and let's just hit auto. And this one has been color corrected through back eons ago. So let's tweak the left and right side here to bring the blacks down a little bit, lights up, so get some contrast going, because it was pretty flat, right? So we did that. Now, back then I didn't have access to Camera Raw, so let's do that. Camera Raw as a filter is pretty awesome. So we bring that in here, and I always do a little bit of temperature adjustment. So we'll bring that to the left, bring a little golden light in there, and we'll take the tint, move it around a little bit, bring some of those fall colors to life a little bit. Then I like to go in and mess with the HSL. So let's go up here and click on the HSL, and always start with luminance. And I always usually take these colors over here. Now it depends on if you see something crazy going on right off the bat. And of course, luminance is going to affect the amount of light that's in the color. So if it goes in a bad way when you start dragging these, obviously you don't want to go that way. But there's plenty of time for redemption if it does something, so don't get too worried. We want to see some reactive. Now the blue slider is different in that if you have any blue in your sky, this is where you would come. I mean, if you want more blue in the sky, but you don't have very much, and of course this is pretty much a dead sky. It's gray sky throughout, and they're covered with clouds, so you're not really going to help this sky. But if there was just a touch of blue somewhere, and you had a cloudless sky in a way, this slider should go a little bit left, and the blues would pop right out, and then you would come over here to saturation and take the slider to the right, and then the blues would just really saturate. Well, in this case, we can't really do a lot with the sky because, like I said, it's cloudy, and it's kind of a mess. But we're concentrating right now on these fall colors here. So we'll go and eyeball what's happening with these fall colors, because you're going to see some pretty big changes. Now look how much more saturated that's becoming, and then the yellows become very important too. And you got to take your time, because sometimes you don't see a lot of change. You got to move these sliders a little bit and watch all over the image to see what they might be doing as your eyes adjust. Then go to you, and do the same thing. What a gigantic change we're getting right here on oranges, right? So then let's look at reds again. Now yellows is going to have a significant change as well. Now if greens isn't having any change, you notice greens went from solid green bar to a yellow green. So if the greens aren't changing the way you want, go back to luminance, and then to saturation, and watch your greens and see if you can't make the greens change. Now see, my greens changed here now. Look at my greens right here as I change them. And then go back to you. See, that's a more intense green now. So let's go down here on my blues. You got to watch your blues, because some of these will make your sky turn purple. Kind of like the pink coming into the sky. Okay, let's go back up to these three are really the dominant colors in the image. So to get that balance where you want it, is kind of crucial, right? Let's say that's good. We want to see where we were and where we are now. These will stay where they are if we want to come back. So let's look at where we were. Is that not a humongous change? There was no way to do that back in the 90s in Photoshop. So we've made this look more like Vermont than Southern Illinois. And obviously if we had multiple copies, if we'd done a Control J and made a exact duplicate of this layer, we could have muted that quite a bit and blended them together if we didn't want this much color, if we felt like this is just not realistic. And we can still do it. We can do a Control J here and then go back to the camera raw filter, go back into HSL, and I was wrong. It did not keep the sliders, and I thought it would. My bad. But we can certainly mute the colors that we had before. I'm starting off in U, and I shouldn't. So we'll go back into luminance, and we can probably should have started in U. taking the sky down. Let's go to saturation. We can certainly make a big difference muting in saturation. Already have. Let's see, don't want to go crazy taking the colors away. Maybe something more like that. Let's see if we can't bump the yellow a little bit. And let's say okay on this one. And let's see, yeah, that's the first one, this is the second one. And then we can, change the opacity. We could put the other one on top. Let's double click it and bring it up on top. Now the one on top is the really, really bright one. We can change the opacity of it to blend in more with the layer under it. If we felt, now they're pretty well blended now. We can bring this up more and say we're more comfortable with something like that. Okay, spent enough time there. And let's go back real quick and say we want to see now what the original looked like. And this is what I had it in to show Southern Illinois. See, I framed that out. So now we're down to here with much more color. Well, let's say we've still got to bring, or see if we can bring some of the detail out in the rocks. So here's what I would do to do that, if we can bring some of the detail out, is to run use saturation. I know we can do the brightness contrast, but I feel like I can get better results sometimes out of use saturation. There's also a lightness slider here. So I'm going to try this, and if I fail, we'll try the other. But I can just run this lightness slider up a bit, and you see what we're getting over here on the left. Now let's just throw that in the trash can, and let's try the brightness contrast. And we'll run. Well, I'm actually liking the results over here better with the brightness contrast. Now don't worry about this at all. We're concerned about what's going on over here. So let's just say that's pretty good. So what we're going to do is just move that out of the way. It's got a mask, and all we care about is the rock, right? So we're going to fill everything in here with black. So that will turn all that off. So to fill this with black is a simple matter of the black is on the bottom, so we just hold down our control key and hit backspace. Now to paint so the rocks will show and poke through there, we would just paint with that white. So just turn on a paintbrush, make sure it's nice and soft. We click up here and we get a nice soft brush. Hardness would be all the way to the left, and we get a nice sized brush like that. Paint with probably, let's paint with 50% for starters. And then let's just go over here. I saw some of the nice stuff coming out over there. And you just paint and paint and paint, bring back as much as you want. And if you look over in your mask, you see there's some of that white showing over there. And then let's move up here. And we may not, some of it we may not get very much detail back. But we're getting some stuff up there too. Let's go down here. Oh yeah, that's nice. Oh, didn't mean to do that, sorry. Now, some of this is just dull edged rock. That really doesn't add to the picture very much. So let's just take that back out. Let's reverse this color. We can just press the letter X on the keyboard, and let's just change the opacity down to about 20, 24 in this case, and we'll paint with black, and that'll cover some of that back up a bit. Just keep painting until you're happy with that. We don't need to see all of that. Alright, now let's go back up, paint with white again so we can poke another hole up here. Let's change that back to 50%. So hopefully those of you that shot with film, maybe you've got some stuff that you can go say, hey, I have some things back from the day that maybe I can salvage now. I can take another look at it. Now there just doesn't appear to be much here that we can really do anything about. Now what we can do is put another mask on there, and let me move this back into the window area, and we can do this another time. So I'll just make a copy of this, Control J, and it really lightened everything else, right? But what I'm going to do is get rid of these other areas by painting them back in really quick. We'll just make sure it's on this new layer, and we'll paint with black into those corners at 100%, because that just made them too lively. We only want some of that detail. Now you see more came out up here, but we've got some purple going on the edges. Now I don't mind some of that stuff, but maybe those edges are a little wacky, so I'm going to cut that down to 50, and oops, that's the flow. Let's cut this down to about 30, and just only leave a little bit of that maybe, and cut that stuff there. So we got a little light there. So let me do a Control 0, maybe a Control minus to fit that in. Control 0 is good. So you can see what we've got now. So I think it looks a bit better. Now how about we do one other thing. Let's do a Sharpen shake reduction. Now you got to remember, let's see if we can fit this into our area, and obviously I'm on the wrong layer. Cancel this. Let's go ahead and flatten this. Normally I wouldn't, but I'm going to. Okay, filter, sharpen, shake reduction, and you get to pick where you want this shake reduction to be, but if you go out here, and it could be harrowing. I'm gonna drag that down and watch what happens. Well, it didn't do bad. I'm gonna narrow it. Narrow it some more. I think we might have done okay. Let's see. Edit, fade shake reduction. Now let's take it all the way off and put it all the way on. I'm not seeing any difference. All the way off, on. Maybe a little. Let me change this to nah, I'm not seeing it. Alright, let me do this. Let's try it again. Sharpen, shake reduction. I see the shift take place, and there's no doubt that back there was not my focal area. Pretty big shift there, right? Let's try. I can't believe that I would focus down there. I'm going to go with that. Now that I've got it, didn't look like it did much. Failed again. We'll just go with what it said and see what happens. Alright, one last try. I'm going to go crazy this time. So, sharpen, shake reduction. When all else fails, go crazy. Now that was a bigger one, but I'm going to yank it. Yank it. And click OK, because we can always fade it. Alright, are we going to see it this time? The only way to fade it, though, is to do this. You can't go back and forth in history. So let's back off. I'm still not seeing it. Yeah, there is a little bit. So we're going to go with that. I think we've come a long way, especially the color is making a huge difference. We're going to do another one with a recent photograph from St. Louis. So Chris Kelman and I are in St. Louis to see a Scott Kelby seminar, and we're down on the riverfront. I guess we got down there 5:15, 5:30, and of course this is a little after the sun was up, and we're walking back south and photographing whatever we can. So I have to ask you, would you rather have this particular image, or would you rather have this particular image? I have, obviously, this image comes from this image. So you have to say to yourself, what from this image do I want, and how do I want to set it up? It's not an altogether bad thing to have both of these arches in the image, but then you got to say, what does it add? You know, does it add anything? Does it take away? Because if you leave this arch, I mean, you probably want to get rid of this stuff up here, and you don't, how much of that do you want to leave? And you got this paddle boat inside this arch and part of the bridge. You got another part of the bridge here, and then people are going to say, well, I see there's part of something else here. That's probably another boat. Why can't I see that? So, you know, so this is the decision I made, is why not use that, all of that, to frame up this boat. So this essentially is like the previous image. Over here in this image, we can't really see much up here. And if you look, we can't see this pedal boat as well as we can here. We see more detail, it's more in focus. Unfortunately, so is the bridge. It takes a lot of work to kill the bridge back there and make it more subdued, knock that depth of field down. But you see up here, this becomes much more interesting because we can see some of the details, not all shadow. I think it's more interesting. And, you know, when you're the artist, you get to choose that. I could have probably gotten rid of that pine cone down there and the blocks and so forth. That's your call when you get to work with it. So this is the call I made versus the this. There's totally up to what you want to do. Now notice there's also a different color to that slightly, not a lot. Actually, there was a lot until I took it into raw a few minutes ago, and I didn't look at the two, so it's kind of surprising how close they are now. But we're going to walk through fixing this, and why not do that right now? So we're going to just make a decision on cropping. So I want to think in terms of making this big enough to print. So this one, let's see what we got here. Image size. This is 11 by 15 and a half roughly, and it's 300 dpi. So let's see about this one. That's a very odd number, so why not make this a 11 by 14, so to speak, or a 16 by 20 if we wanted to go that route. I think this might play more to 11 by 14, so let's think in terms of 11 by 14. So width 11, and actually height would be 11. I mean, yeah, gotta get that right. Height would be 14. Width is 11. We're getting that wrong. Why are we going this direction? Width is supposed to be getting closer, and the resolution 300. Only took days. So now we have to determine what's most important here on height. You know, do we want to come up higher, lower, so forth? So we've got to bring this in, obviously, because we don't want the other. And we got to scooch. So we got all kinds of decisions we got to make to get this the right size, right? Okay, I've gone back and forth trying to figure out the best way to crop this, looking at this image, and let me try it again here. It's kind of unique where I decided to do it. I mean, I kind of surprised myself by where I ended up doing it. Let me see if I can get it close to where it was. It's not typical of me, at least I didn't think it was, to crop this the way I did. I got part of that that Y. Let's see, I'm getting further up here, but this is 11 by 15, which is totally not standard. So I'm getting more in this image than I'm going to be able to get in this image. Now I've lost what I did because I didn't complete the transform. But I want some of this archway, so that's the tricky part. I'm going to have to make it somewhat different because I need some of this up in here to demo. And so I'm going to have to get a little bit different look than I had there, so I can have some of this arch up here. Bring this in. We don't need all of that. So I'm gonna place this a little differently. Kind of wanted that boat a little bit more in the third over here, but I didn't want to get tons of this arch on this side either. We'll see how horrible that's going to look. I'm not nuts about that. Control Z. And let's bring this in. I know you guys are sitting there thinking, why don't you do this? Try that. And I don't blame you, because I just have in mind what I want you to see when I demo this. And what we're going to end up doing is probably putting the boat right in the middle, which isn't the worst thing in the world that we could do. But if I don't get part of this archway up here, I'm going to really be fit to be tied is what it boils down to. I've got a little bit of that going on. I think maybe that'll be okay. All right, we're going to go with this. So, first thing I want to do is to go in and let's check out our colors. Let's go to filter and camera raw. And not everybody needs to be able to pop the colors and all that stuff, but I do like to go in here and start off with luminance and just bang these colors over here, and I'm going to bring the blues over here, and saturation, I'm going to pump the blues over this, this direction on saturation, and wiggle some of these the other way. And I want to watch what's going on, see what's going on with the stone here when I mess with the orange, because that's the color that sunset is hitting this brown stone. The reds and the oranges are really coming into play here. Then on these colors, you got to watch what's going on in the background colors. Shouldn't have anything to do with greens. And I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't do something with my boat, because it looks like it's really crazy. Bring the focal area down to the boat. Oh, my trace bounds are way off up here, so we'll see what this does to the overall image. Yeah, I don't think that did us any favors. Like getting cross-eyed here. See, that looks slick. This looks like poo. Yep. It can't be the right image. Well, here's the St. Louis image, and Chris Kilman and I were in St. Louis to hear Scott Kelby at one of his seminars, and we decided it'd be a really great idea to get up around 5 o'clock and get down to the river and get some photographs, especially after Chris had just, I think the day or two before, had surgery. So we went down to the river and got there before the sun came up, and got several pictures. And this is one of them that I took and fiddled with, and here's what I came up with on this image that I kind of liked. And now you say, what's the difference between that one and this one here? And if you look, this is the raw image. You see it's CR2, so that's Canon's raw image. Obviously, we got a little gap here, and not a lot of detail up there. If you look in this one, we have some more detail up here. It's not all shadow, and we've got this cropped to the edge of this pillar. We also have, if I'm allowed to zoom in, this paddle boat is quite clean with lots of detail. So unfortunately, there's nobody out there on the deck, or we might be able to count their whiskers. But, well, being as if it was a guy. But you see the deal is, this is neat. This is nice to have in this archway, those particular details. And up here, that's getting lost. So when I made this, that was when I saw this, I thought this needs to be paid attention to. So let's get at this. And I think you see as we build this, this is actually worth the couple of tricks that are involved here. So here's what we're going to do. I want to basically print this as an 11 by 14 with a resolution of 300. So let's just go, there's no sense working on it larger than it needs to be. Okay, so we'll just hit the old crop tool, and you see I've already got that entered in because I was already filling with something. And so that's what we've got to work with. So we're going to lose some data. Shows you right off the bat. So let's just go ahead and scooch this in, knowing we've got to chop that off anyway. And I really don't want to lose any of this over here because, well, I don't. And so I'm going to click and drag that down. I want to catch all that water's edge. I'm only going to catch, looks like the very top of the arch. I would have loved to have gotten all the way up there, but I'm not, because that's the format that we have to work in. If I've been at this long enough that I should have given myself, thinking in terms of format, I should have given myself the rules of the road, so to speak. I should have been thinking in terms of, hey, if you want to print this 1114, you're going to have to think your way through this. And now I'm cocking this to the side just a little bit to line this up properly, because I don't want it canted. So I think I'm good there. Hit enter to line things up good, and I believe I'm okay. I like to take things into Camera Raw real quick to take advantage of all the color I can. So I'm going to go to the Camera Raw filter, and just looking at it, eyeballing it, I'm going to take it over here and get that good morning glow back out of it. These colors are there. I'm not manufacturing stuff, so I'm just going to tweak those two. I'm going to go down to clarity and punch that a little bit, and I'm going to go to vibrance. And I always hit clarity and vibrance. I don't hit saturation. That throws in the unreality of things. So let's go over to HSL, which is the fourth one over, and I always start with luminance, and I always jack these over a little bit. Don't worry about everything's going wacky. Now the first thing you do is you run the blues excuse me, to the left. Doesn't matter on the other ones so much. Now then you go to saturation and you run the blues to the right. Now excuse me, this kind of a sky, you're really not going to have much of an effect with it. The sky hadn't developed yet, so you see no matter what, and the sky just isn't going to be affected much. But normally you'd run the blues to the left, and then under saturation you move the blues to the right. But you are going to see some effects. Now you start looking at this stone, especially under orange. Look what you can suck the color right out of it on orange, but we want to maintain that morning light. That early morning light is what we saw. So now the greens, obviously there aren't any greens there. So, but keep your eye on background colors as we move some of these other sliders, because the boat has some of these colors in it. Go to U. Again, you got to watch this stone. Now we've gone a little more yellow orangey. Now the red went away on the boat, so we're going to have to, now our sky is looking a little cooler, a little neater. Now our red's back on the boat. That's cool. I think we're good, doing fine. Like the sky, like this. Everything's happy. So I'm going to click OK. Now did you see? Here's where we were. Here's where we are now. Okay. Now here's some of the magic right here. We're going to, this basically is going to be like we did on the shot at the Garden of the Gods. We're going to go to layers, and I'm going to do the use saturation, and we're going to brighten it up. Actually, again, I usually like use saturation, but I don't like it there again. So let's go to brightness contrast, and we'll bring brightness up, and we can take it up pretty good. It's alright, and we'll just move that out of the way, and we're going to fill it with black, remember. So Black is on top, so we use the Alt key and the backspace to fill it with black. Now obviously this is perfect. We don't want to change the lighting on this support beam or support at all. And so we're going to paint with the paintbrush. We want it to be a nice big fat brush again, and that's not a big fat brush, so run that slider up, run that slider up. Yeah, good. And we want the brush opacity to be around 30% is fine, and we want it to be on white. So we can either hit the letter X or just toggle that little arrow baby right there and make it white. And then we're just going to paint white up here. Come down here. And we can paint over it as much as we want. Now I would recommend probably not going too far. I think that's too far. So I'm going to press the letter X, and that'll switch this back to black, and paint that back down to there. And I'm also going to take a couple of swipes up here and swipe down here, swipe down here again, and let's turn that off just to see where we came from. A couple more swipes here. I think that looks pretty good. What do you think? Yeah, I kind of like that. Now, we can darken that down the same way if we wish to. Let's just do it for fun. So let's just go up here and click on brightness contrast, and let's go and darken it down. So yeah, we did that, so that's okay. So we've got that up here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fill that with black. Black is on top, so we hold down the Alt key, hit backspace. So now we're going to paint with white. So if we switch it to white, press X, we're going to paint on the background back here, and we let that show through. Now notice it's streaky, pukey, streaky looking. So I'm going to undo that. Control Z a couple of times. So let's click on this, and let's click right here next to that where that little tab is, and let's turn spacing off, and all this stuff here, shape dynamics, and this, and this, and this, all that stuff, turn it all off, and then get that out of the way. Now let's try it again. Okay. Now if you want it to be even darker, or maybe just the sky a little bit darker, just and if you don't, press X again to paint with black, and you will bring it back. And then do it again, click, and or you can just turn the eyeball off and bring it all back. It's just something to show you got control over it, okay? Well, let's say you want the paddle boat to be whiter. Okay, so let's turn on another brightness contrast. So we bumped the white up. That's quite a bit. Let's bump the contrast up while we're at it. And let's make that go away. And we turn it off. So we'll hide it. So black is on top. We want to fill that with black. So we hold down the Alt key and hit backspace. And all that goes away. But we want to punch a hole through it so we can actually make that paddle boat wider. So we want to paint with white. So we press X. And let's make the brush smaller because it's going to turn white all at once. So left bracket key, and we're on around 30%. So now we just start painting the boat, and we paint the little gangplank. And let's go down there where the bottom is there. Make that a little wider. And can you see the difference? It's practically glowing, like Rudolph's nose. Now you can change the opacity of that, take it down a little bit. Alright, now how about let's zoom in on that a little bit. So we've made a whiter boat, not wider. Let's make it more in focus. So let's get down here on the layer the boat actually sits on. Go to Filter, go to Sharpen, Shake Reduction, and say no, we want you to be down here on the boat, the boat, the boat. And we'll click OK. And let's see what we get here. Let's go to Fade Shake Reduction. There's the way it was, almost. There's the way it is now. Oh yeah. Yeah. So let's, maybe too much, right? Let's see. Let's look at it again. Look at this right here. Got this nice edge glow. Yeah, it's already starting right there, and wow. So maybe only go to there. Well, I wish we could go to there, because that really, I'm going to go to there. Because at this distance, yeah, it still shows. Darn it. Okay, we will undo that back to there. How about we do a Unsharp Mask? How much can we get by with there? Did that help? Let's look at the history. Yep. And between the two, and how bad did that make that? Nah, we're in good shape there. So minus that a couple of jillion times. Let me get. Don't forget, if you want to preview your image in Photoshop, the best way to do it, to see it on an all black screen, is to press the letter F a couple of times, and nothing but your image will show up. It doesn't tire your eyes out trying to stare against all the other stuff. Now, as a final touch, obviously, I would grab the old patch tool and come up here. Now, you can't get rid of all of it with one whack. I should have done the hook at the bottom. punish myself by doing that. And we got the odd little thing going on there because I did that, but that's okay for a quick fix. We'll live with it. All right, hopefully that helped out, and you got the idea. Bringing back things in the shadowed area, sharpening things up, bringing the color back in areas that may otherwise be a little more muted. You know, things like that can make a world of difference. And even working with film images that maybe back in the day we couldn't do so much with. All right, that wraps this up, gang. I enjoyed working on this. I hope you will work on it and get something out of it as well. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.